Hello and welcome to this writing lesson. In this section, you will learn to recognize and correct some common errors in sentence structure. These common errors are sentence fragments, choppy sentences, run-on sentences, and stringy sentences. Sentence fragments are incomplete sentences or parts of sentences. Remember that a complete sentence must contain at least one main or independent clause. Let's look at some examples of sentence fragments and the suggested methods for correcting them. Because some students work part-time while taking a full load of classes. Now, this is a dependent clause because it begins with a subordinator. Because. So this sentence alone does not express a complete thought. In other words, this is an incomplete sentence and it is called a sentence fragment. To fix it, we can do two things. First, we can add an independent clause. For example, because some students work part-time while taking a full load of courses, they have very little free time. This sentence is now correct. And we have a complex sentence because we have an independent clause plus a dependent clause. Second, we can delete the subordinator so that we would have an independent clause or a simple sentence. Look at this. Some students work part-time while taking a full load of classes. Let's look at another one. For example, the increase in the cost of renting an apartment to live and work for at least a year in a foreign country. Now, as you can see, neither sentence has a verb. We have two sentence fragments. Now, to fix them, we can rewrite each sentence so that each one has a verb. For example, the increase in the cost of renting an apartment worries a lot of people. And to live and work for at least a year in a foreign country has always been my dream. You know what? Since these two sentences can be related, we can add a verb and combine the two. Here it is. For example, the increase in the cost of renting an apartment has discouraged many people from living and working in a foreign country for at least a year. Let's look at one more. Teachers who give too much homework. This is a noun plus an adjective clause. This sentence is obviously incomplete and cannot stand alone. To fix it, we can simply finish the independent clause. Teachers who give too much homework are unpopular. Now, always check your own writing for sentence fragments. Pay particular attention to sentences beginning with subordinators like although, since, because, if, before, and so on. These are danger words. Make sure that every clause beginning with these words is attached to an independent clause. In other words, make sure you don't have incomplete sentences. We will now do some exercises to make sure that you understand what sentence fragments are and how to fix them. Remember that our IELTS practice test team is here to review your essays and provide constructive feedback. To ensure that our mock examiners provide you with feedback that is both helpful and accurate, we have them undergo training with a real examiner. If you want to know the difference, try one of our practice exams. And finally, if you like what you see, please subscribe to our channel. We regularly produce videos that may be helpful in preparing for the IELTS. Choppy sentences are sentences that are too short, Choppy sentences are easy to correct. Just combine 2 or 3 short sentences to make one compound or complex sentence. Your decision to make a compound or a complex sentence should be based on whether the ideas in the short sentences are equal or whether one idea is dependent on the other. If the sentences express equal ideas, use coordination to combine them. Look at these choppy sentences now. Wind is an enduring source of power. Water is also an unlimited energy source. Dams produce hydraulic power. They have existed for a long time. Windmills are relatively new. Now here, wind is an enduring source of power expresses a main idea. And water is also an unlimited energy source presents a main idea as well. Similarly, they have existed for a long time, and windmills are relatively new. Both express equally important ideas. However, dams produce hydraulic power, gives extra information, and is less important than they have existed for a long time. Therefore, we can merge these two sentences and write them as one. Now look at the corrected version right here. Both wind and water are enduring sources of power. Dams have produced hydraulic power for a long time, but windmills are relatively new. When two sentences express equal ideas, or when they both present independent main ideas, write a compound sentence using a coordinator. Fanboys. Remember fanboys? Now, please pause your video, check the usage of each coordinator, and make sure you know them all. Then read the examples and play the video again when you're done. If the sentences express unequal ideas, that is, if one sentence expresses a less important idea than the other, use subordination to combine them. Look at these choppy sentences. We must find new sources of energy. Natural sources of energy are decreasing. Solar energy is a promising new source of energy. Solar energy is energy from the sun. In this case, natural sources of energy are decreasing is a reason why we must find new sources of energy, and therefore not equal to it. Likewise, solar energy is energy from the sun only gives some extra information about solar energy and can be subordinated to it. So look at the corrected version now. We must find new sources of energy because natural sources of energy are dwindling. Solar energy, which is energy from the sun, is a promising new source. Now, when two sentences express unequal ideas, decide which sentence presents the more important idea. This will be the independent clause. Then decide what the relationship of the other sentence to the main one is. Finally, write a complex sentence using a subordinator that expresses that relationship. Look at these two sentences. They called the police. They heard the scream. You want to combine these two sentences to form a complex sentence. The more important idea is they called the police. And the less important one is they heard the scream. Now, if you want to indicate they called the police happened at the time when they heard the scream, you can say they called the police as soon as they heard the scream. So here, the independent clause happened at the time the dependent clause happened. Now, if the independent clause is the reason of the dependent clause, you can use because, since, or as. If the independent clause is in contrast with the dependent clause, you can use although, whereas, while, and etc. And if the dependent clause gives some descriptive information about a noun in the independent clause, you can use who, which, where, and etc. So all in all, when you combine two simple sentences with a subordinator, you have a complex sentence. Subordinate clauses and dependent clauses show that you know how to create complex sentences. The IELTS examiner will actually check to see what percentage of your clauses are correct, meaning you have to have low frequency of mistakes. The examiner will also check and see if you have used a variety of structures, including complex and compound complex. In addition to different types of dependent clauses that we have talked about before, including noun clauses, adjective clauses, and etc., you could also use participle clauses or prepositional phrases. Now, look at these two sentences. A lot of students choose a part-time job while they're still in school. They hope to gain some hands-on experience. To combine these two sentences, you can make a participle clause by changing they hope to hoping, and this would complete your sentence. Look at some more participle clause examples. The bomb exploded, destroying the building. Worried by the news, she called the hospital. Having finished their training, they will be fully qualified doctors. Now look at these two sentences. They arrived at the hotel. They were welcomed by the manager. To combine these two sentences, apart from what you learned so far, you can also use a prepositional phrase by changing they arrived to upon their arrival. So, upon their arrival, they were welcomed by the manager. Look at two more examples where we combine related sentences using prepositional phrases. Many people move to larger cities. Many people hope to find better jobs. We can combine these by changing the sentence to with the hope of finding better jobs. Many people move to larger cities with the hope of finding better paying jobs. Look at this one now. John wanted to take care of his horse. John wanted to hire someone who does not smoke or drink. Now, to combine these sentences, we can change this to take care of his horse and add it to our main clause. To take care of his horse, John wanted to hire someone who does not smoke or drink. A run-on sentence is a sentence in which two or more independent clauses are written one after another with no punctuation. My family went to Australia, then they emigrated to Canada. Now, a similar error happens when two independent clauses are incorrectly joined by a comma without a coordinating conjunction. Look at this. My family went to Australia, comma, then they emigrated to Canada. This kind of error is called a comma splice. Now, how do we correct these errors when we see them? There are different ways to correct them both. First, you can simply add a period and make two separate sentences, like this. My family went to Australia, period. Then they emigrated to Canada, period. You may also add a semicolon to show that these two sentences are related. My family went to Australia, semicolon, then they emigrated to Canada. Another way would be to add a comma and a coordinator, which would make a compound sentence, like this. My family went to Australia, comma, and then they emigrated to Canada. Finally, you may want to add a subordinator to make a complex sentence, like this. My family went to Australia before they emigrated to Canada. You can also do it this way. After my family went to Australia, comma, they emigrated to Canada. Now, a stringy sentence is a sentence with too many clauses, usually connected with and, but, so, and sometimes because. It often results from writing the way you speak, going on and on like a string without an end. Stringy sentences don't give the reader a chance to pause before each new idea. To get a clearer picture of what a stringy sentence is, think of when you had just started learning English. When you wanted to describe, for example, your daily routine back then, you probably made a lot of sentences like, I usually wake up at 7 and I take a shower and I have breakfast at 8, but I don't have a big breakfast because I have to go to work soon, so I don't have enough time for a big meal. Whew. Do you see how you keep going and going? Well, to fix a stringy sentence, you can break the sentence into 2 or more sentences, or turn some of the complete thoughts into phrases or subordinate clauses. Look at this stringy sentence now. Martina climbed the stairs of the haunted house and she knocked on the door several times, but no one answered and she braced herself and then she opened the door. Another stringy sentence. Now let's fix it. Martina climbed the stairs of the haunted house. She knocked on the door several times, but no one answered. Bracing herself, she opened the door. Let's look at another example. Many students attend classes all morning, and then they work all afternoon. And they also have to study at night, so they are usually exhausted by the weekend. To fix this, we can say, many students attend classes all morning and work all afternoon. Since they also have to study at night, they are usually exhausted by the weekend. Notice you can also write this another way. Because many students attend classes all morning, work all afternoon, and study at night, they are usually exhausted by the weekend. IELTS question types are varied, so it is important to focus on the question prompt. Read through this table, which shows some common essay question types. In your essay, you may need to provide general facts related to the topic, give reasons for a problem, outline the causes of a problem, present solutions for a problem, or justify your opinion or reasons for your opinion. You may also be asked to evaluate evidence and ideas, assess how much you agree or disagree with an idea, or decide if there are more advantages or disadvantages. You may simply be asked to explain why this situation has occurred. Let's look at an IELTS Task 2 question and see how you would answer it. International tourism has brought enormous benefit to many places. At the same time, there is concern about its impact on local inhabitants and the environment. Do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? This question asks you very specifically to decide if there are more advantages or more disadvantages. You're asked if one outweighs the other, so you must discuss both the advantages and the disadvantages. It's not enough to say the advantages of international tourism definitely outweigh the disadvantages, and then only describe the advantages in your response. The reader must see both sides of your discussion and the reasons why you think one outweighs the other. Now, what are the mistakes that you can make with this type of question? You may only list the advantages, or you may only list the disadvantages. Also, students sometimes present both the advantages and the disadvantages, but they forget to say which one outweighs the other. If you take 5 minutes to analyze the question and make a proper outline of what you're going to write about, you won't make such silly mistakes. How do we answer this type of question? Well, first, you have to decide on your position. Are there more advantages or more disadvantages? Let's assume that we think there are more advantages. Naturally, we would write about 2 to 3 advantages and 1 to 2 disadvantages. So we present the advantages. We could think of maybe 3. And then we present 2 disadvantages because you have decided that there are more advantages. So you give 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages. Finally, you should repeat your position in the conclusion, so the reader knows that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Let's look at another IELTS Task 2 question. In Britain, when someone gets old, they often go to live in a home with other old people, where there are nurses to look after them. Sometimes the government has to pay for this care. Who do you think should pay for this care? The government or the family? Now, this question asks you to make a decision based on your opinion of the statement. You have to decide if the government should pay for old people to live in an aged care home or if the family should pay. It's important to make a decision and to clearly express this in your introduction. Of course, your decision will be based on your own opinion, so you may think that both should pay. There are a couple of common mistakes that students usually make with this type of question. Some students give reasons why both should pay, but they don't make a decision. For example, you might say that some people argue that the government should pay for it, while others believe that the family should pay for it. However, you never mention what you think. Another common mistake students make with this type of question is going off topic, due to including information which might seem relevant but actually does not answer the question in the topic. Again, the topic is asking who should pay for the elderly care. So you may go off topic by presenting the problems caused by living in an aged care facility instead of saying who should pay. Or you may present reasons why the family cannot look after their aged parents instead of saying who should pay again. You may also give reasons why old people should be cared for in their own homes. Again, these are all some common mistakes you may make when you try to answer opinion questions, so you should be careful. As you can see, none of these arguments indicate who should pay for the care, the government or the family. So naturally, you would get a low score in your task response if you make such mistake. Now, how should we answer this type of question then? Well, first, you need to decide on who should pay, the government or the family, or a combination of both. Then, you should give 2 or 3 reasons to support your opinion. Now, make sure to support your reasons with examples from your own experience. If you think that both the family and the government should pay, support this opinion with how this could work. For example, partial payment, government building aged care homes, but families pay for the care. Whatever. You just need to make sense to the reader. Finally, you should repeat your opinion on who should pay for this care in the conclusion, so the reader is fully aware of the decision you have made. IELTS opinion essays, also known as agree or disagree essays, come up frequently in the writing exam. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to plan and write them step by step. But first, let's see what the questions are like. It is better to buy just a few expensive clothes rather than lots of cheap clothes. Do you agree or disagree? The first part of the question for an IELTS opinion essay will be a statement. You will then be asked to give your opinion about the statement. Now, please keep in mind that other than do you agree or disagree, you may also see questions like, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Or you may simply see a question like, what is your opinion? Analyzing the question will ensure that you answer it fully. It's quick and easy to do. You just need to identify 3 different types of words: topic words, other keywords, and instruction words. Now, topic words are the ones that identify the general subject of the question and will be found in the statement part of the question. So this question is about buying clothes. Many people do this first step of the process and then write about the topic in general. This is a serious mistake and leads to low marks for task response. What we need to do, now that we know the general topic, is to understand exactly what aspect of buying clothes we're being asked to write about. The other keywords in the question tell you specifically what aspect of the general topic you need to talk about. By highlighting these words, it's easy to see that you're being asked to write about buying a few expensive clothes being better than buying lots of cheap ones. Your essay must only include ideas relevant to this aspect of buying clothes: a few expensive ones or a lot of cheap ones. The instruction words are the question itself. They tell you exactly what to include in your essay. Here, we are required to write about our opinion as to whether it is better to buy a few expensive clothes rather than lots of cheap clothes. Make sure you analyze the question before you start writing. Otherwise, you're very likely to go off topic, which will result in a low score in task response. Here's another sample question from a past test paper. A big salary is much more important than job satisfaction. Do you agree or disagree? Now, let's analyze this one together. The topic word is job, so we need to write about jobs. But what aspect of jobs? To answer this question, you need to find the other keywords and then the instruction words. A big salary is much more important than job satisfaction. Do you agree or disagree? So we need to write about 2 job criteria: the salary and the satisfaction. And we have to explain whether we agree or disagree that receiving a large sum of money is more important than job satisfaction. I'll be using this question to guide you through the process of planning and writing an IELTS opinion essay. Before that, though, let's review some common mistakes candidates make usually as a result of not analyzing the question first. These errors are common in IELTS opinion essays. Giving arguments for both views without taking a clear side, and not supporting your opinion with clear reasons. It doesn't matter which side of the argument you take. Choose the one that you can develop the best argument for. And make sure that you don't change your opinion halfway through the essay. To avoid such mistakes, you'll need to do some brainstorming before you start writing your essay. Let's see how it's done. The first step is to decide on your opinion. For this essay, I'm going to disagree with the statement and argue that job satisfaction is more important than a big salary. Since I know what my position is going to be, it is time to think of some ideas. The question I need to think about is, why do I think that job satisfaction is more important than a high salary? To generate ideas, you can either think of some examples first, which could then help you think of some ideas, or brainstorm some ideas first and then come up with some relevant examples. With this particular question, I immediately thought of a couple of examples of situations where job satisfaction did prove to be more important than a high salary. So I'm going to use the example method of generating ideas. Remember that your examples don't need to be true, as the examiner won't check your facts. So here are my examples. Once you have thought of an example or two, ideas to include in your essay should come to you easily. Here are some ideas I thought of. Again, the question I need to answer to come up with ideas is, why do I think that job satisfaction is more important than a big salary? After listing every idea that comes into my mind, I realize that I've got more ideas here that I need. So I'm going to pick two to develop in the essay, one for each of the main body paragraphs. Since these two ideas are closely related, I want to combine them and make a single idea for my first body paragraph. So idea one would be, high salary jobs are generally more stressful and can lead to ill health. And I want to choose this one as my second idea. So my second idea is, job satisfaction gives a sense of fulfillment. We're almost ready to start writing our IELTS opinion essay, but first we have one other small task to do: finding relevant vocabulary. In an IELTS essay, it's important to be able to say the same things in different ways by paraphrasing. During the planning stage, quickly jot down a few synonyms of key words you could use to save you thinking time during the exam. I have chosen these words as my keywords, so here are the synonyms I could use: satisfaction, fulfillment, achievement, sense of accomplishment, content, sense of well-being. For salary, I could use income, wages, pay, and earnings. For important, I can say significant, valued, and or has more meaning. And for job, I can say work, employment, or position. With that done, we can start writing our essay. But first, let's review the essay structure. I'm going to show you a simple structure you can use to write opinion essays. It's not the only possible structure, but it's the one I recommend because it's easy to learn and will enable you to quickly plan and write a high-level essay. In this structure, you will need 4 paragraphs. Start with an introduction, which includes the rephrased question and your opinion, followed by 2 reasons. Then you will need 2 body paragraphs, each developing one of the ideas by providing explanations and examples. And finally, write a conclusion which basically gives a paraphrase of your opinion and a summary of the reasons. This structure will give us a well-balanced essay with 4 paragraphs. Now, all we have to do is add our ideas into this structure. A good introduction has a simple 3-part structure: a paraphrase question, a thesis statement to indicate your opinion, and an outline statement to introduce the main ideas. An introduction should have 2 to 3 sentences, be 40 to 60 words long and take 5 minutes to write. So start your introduction by paraphrasing the question. You can use "it is argued," "it is considered," or "it is thought that" to begin the introduction. Here is the paraphrased question now. It is argued that earning lots of money has more significance to people than being content with their work. Note that I have used some of the synonyms I listed, although it's fine to repeat one or two words if you need to. Above all, your language must sound natural. Now that we have paraphrased our question, we can write the thesis statement. The thesis statement is where you state your opinion. For example, you can simply say, "I totally disagree with the statement." That's all you need to say. If you decided to agree with the statement, you would write, "I completely agree with the statement." And finally, in the introduction, you must outline the two main points, ideas 1 and 2, which you will cover in the rest of the essay. You can mention these two reasons in a separate sentence, or you can add them to the end of the thesis statement if appropriate. And so here are the two main points or ideas. High salary jobs are generally more stressful and can lead to ill health. Job satisfaction gives a sense of fulfillment. Now, to explain why I disagree with the statement in the question, and also to include both of these ideas in one sentence, I have written my outline statement like this. I believe that people are increasingly concerned about the risk of stress-related ill health, frequently experienced by individuals in highly paid positions, and they care more about feeling fulfilled at work. So, let's bring the three elements of our introduction together. It is argued that earning lots of money has more significance to people than being content with their work. I totally disagree with the statement. I believe that people are increasingly concerned about the risk of stress-related ill health, frequently experienced by individuals in highly paid positions, and they care more about feeling fulfilled at work. The two ideas you select from your list of ideas to include in your introduction will become the main ideas or the topic sentences of your two body paragraphs. The structure of a good body paragraph has three parts: a topic sentence, an explanation, and an example. If you can't think of an example, you can add further supporting ideas. We already have our two examples, so that's not an issue here. Remember, each body paragraph must be about one single main idea. A common problem when writing body paragraphs for IELTS opinion essays is having too many ideas, which could cause the paragraph to lack focus. Let's write the first body paragraph now. The topic sentence points out the main idea of the paragraph. That's all it needs to do, so it doesn't have to be complicated. We will now take the idea for our first body paragraph and create our topic sentence. To achieve a higher score in lexis, make sure to use paraphrasing wherever possible. When writing your topic sentence, for example, do not use the exact same wording as the one in the introduction. So here's the first idea. People are increasingly concerned about the risk of stress-related ill health, frequently experienced by people in highly paid positions. Now, using this idea, we will write our topic sentence for the first body paragraph. Employees earning a large income are generally under significant mental and emotional pressure to perform well and achieve targets. So, next we must write an explanation sentence to explain or expand our topic sentence. This expands our first idea. This causes many individuals to suffer high levels of stress, which can result in both mental and physical health problems. And finally, we add an example to support our main point. I thought of this in the planning state, so I have it ready to use. If you can't think of a real example, it's fine to make one up as long as it's believable. The examiner isn't going to check your facts. But in case you can't make up any good examples, add more explanation to support the main idea. Here's our example to be added to the body. This happened to my uncle. He used to boast about his huge salary, but the boss kept increasing his sales targets, and in the end, the stress became too great and he had a nervous breakdown. Now he regrets being driven by the money. And that is the 3 parts of our first body paragraph completed. So here's the finished paragraph. We will now follow the same process for our second body paragraph. We do the same thing for body paragraph 2. First, we write the topic sentence to introduce the main idea. Again, remember to paraphrase the main idea so that your topic sentence is worded differently from how it was written in the introduction. Our second main idea is they care more about feeling fulfilled at work. So here's our topic sentence. Having a job that they enjoy doing and in which they feel valued is a major concern for most of the modern workforce. Now we explain the topic sentence. A significant number of people are giving up well-paid positions to do jobs which pay less, but that they find more enjoyable and less stressful. And finally, we add an example to support our main point. As before, I thought of this in the planning state, so I just need to form it into a couple of sentences. Here it is. I am an example of this myself. A year ago, I left the accounting profession because the workload had become too great, and I am now a teacher. I feel really fulfilled in this work, and I'm much more relaxed and happier, even though I earn far less money. And that is the 3 parts of our second body paragraph complete. So here's the finished paragraph. Now we need a conclusion, and our IELTS opinion essay is done. Now, conclusions to IELTS opinion essays should do 2 things. They should paraphrase your opinion, and they should summarize the main points. This can generally be done in a single sentence. If you're below the minimum 250 words after you've written your conclusion, you can add an additional prediction or recommendation statement. Our essay is already 236 words, so we're on target and don't need this extra sentence. The conclusion is the easiest sentence in the essay to write, but one of the most important. A good conclusion will neatly end the essay, restate your opinion, summarize the main points, give comments or make a recommendation or prediction if your essay is below 250 words. Now, if you achieve this, you'll improve your score for both task response and cohesion and coherence, which together make up 50% of the overall marks. Without a conclusion, you will score below band 6 for task response. You can start almost any final paragraph of an IELTS opinion essay with the words "in conclusion" or "to conclude." Now, all you need to do is briefly summarize the main ideas into one sentence. Here's a top tip. Go back and read the introduction to the essay because this is also a summary of the essay. It outlines what you're going to write about. To create a great conclusion, you simply have to paraphrase the introduction. Let's give it a go. Here's the same information formed into a conclusion. In conclusion, for a high percentage of the population, including me, earning a substantial wage is less important than job satisfaction because of the negative effects of work-related stress and the desire to feel happy and fulfilled at work. So that's it. We have completed our essay. Here it is with the 4 paragraphs put together.